Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Becomes the Monarch of Shadows Part 9 Season 2. Before we start, please go support Dragon Necro King 132 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. Chapter 14. Parent Day. Third person POV. Silence. Silence was all that could be heard from the Haidu household. The lights were out and it was dead silent to the world, as if it was abandoned or something. However, the silence was soon interrupted as a magic circle appeared in the living floor, and from it came Issei Haidu, Yoruichi, Yamato, Artemis, and Sun Wukong. Yoruichi was hugging one Issei's arms, putting it in between her breast, which made the boy blush a little and caused those like Yamato and surprisingly Artemis to feel jealous of her. Sun Wukong on the other hand just laughed, though not out loud, since he personally knows not to mess with a goddess when they are angry. He sort of has personal experience with his wives, they tend to beat the shit out of him whenever he does something stupid. Then again he was Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, the great sage equal to the heavens. He has faced goddess and demons, yet he gets terrified of his own wives, something that a few husbands have experienced. Sun Wukong. Gotta say, you sure got balls of steel, Issei. Not many deities challenge the god of thunder, the strongest in all of Norse, and actually come out alive. Issei. I know. He then looked at Yoruichi, who gave him a sweet smile. Issei. I'm still surprised that you're his daughter, my pet cat is the child of the god of thunder. Yoruichi giggled as she grew a small smirk. Yoruichi. The form you saw me in was when I used both my parents' power, since I despised Thor after what he did. I never used it though, I'll use it whenever you want to say. Issei blushed as Sun Wukong laughed, while both Yamato and Artemis were basically fuming with jealousy. So much so that you could see a dark aura crawling onto their bodies while their eyes shined red. Both. This bitch. Sun Wukong saw this and sweat dropped. Sun Wukong. Poor Issei. Kenji. Georgia. Artemis. What did you say, boy? Sun Wukong looked at his son before smiling. Sun Wukong. Kenji said it's time for me and him to go. Better head back before my wives notice I am missing. Issei looked at Sun Wukong. Issei. Thanks for taking us back home. Wukong smiled at his rival and nodded. Sun Wukong. No problem, good luck with tomorrow. And with that, Sun Wukong and his son Kenji disappeared from the Haidu house. Issei raised an eyebrow. Tomorrow? What was on tomorrow? He knew that he had school, but he doesn't think there's anything special on. Issei. What did he mean? Yoruichi. You okay, Issei? Issei perked up and looked at Yoruichi, who was still hugging his arm, this time with a little concern in her eyes. Issei. Sorry, must have dozed off. What you say? Yoruichi. I asked if you're okay. Issei. Oh, yeah, I am fine. He let out a small sigh as he scratched the back of his head, turning to a nearby clock, and saw how late it was. 1 a.m. Issei. Geez, it's 1 in the morning. The boy wanted to facepalm himself, he was supposed to go to the god party for a little while and then come back, but no, he just had to pick a fight with someone and waste time. He didn't even defeated Thor, if anything, if it wasn't for Yoruichi stepping in that he would have died then and there. Issei really needs to start using his head for and not his heart, things like the power of friendship won't save his ass again in the future, and he should know that by now. Yoruichi. We should head to and Yamato already fell asleep. She pointed at Yamato, who was already asleep on the couch. Both Yoruichi and Artemis deadpanned as they watched the daughter of Kaido snore away. She wasn't quiet either because it sounded like someone was drilling into a wall. Artemis was so tempted to just walk up to her and throw her outside for being so noisy, then again that will be bad for everyone else. Although, the two soon saw Issei walk over to Yamato, and to their shock, he put a blanket over her body and a pillow under her head. The way he did it, he was so gentle and quiet that it almost looked like that Issei was a parent tucking his child into bed. In other words, it was a cute sight to see with their eyes. It made them blush a little as smile grew on their faces from Issei's actions. Issei. There. Issei stretched and began to head upstairs, but before he did he looked back at Artemis. Issei. Hey Artemis. Are you gonna stick around or are you gonna go back to Olympus and do whatever? The goddess of the hunt fell silent, a part of her wanted to stay, but she can't do that because she had more important things to do, and if the other Olympians discovered that she was missing then it wouldn't be good for Issei. After all, Hades still hasn't forgotten about the death of Cerberus, and she doubts that the others like her father Zeus would let something like that slide under the rug. She let out a small sigh. Artemis. I'll be heading back to Olympus, I have important things to do. Issei. Like what? Artemis merely crossed her arms and looked away from the brown-haired boy, which made him roll his eyes playfully, because Artemis was really starting to be more like a tsundere every second he's around her. Artemis. I don't need to tell you anything, male. I see. Yeah. What you say, tsundere? Artemis. Zip it, she said with a massive blush on her face. Issei only chuckled as he watched as Artemis disappeared in a flash of light. The boy smiled before he made his way up to his bedroom. He opened the door and saw Yuruchi already sleeping in her cat form. Issei wondered how the hell she managed to get ahead of him, but at this point he was too tired to care about the little things. He laid down in his bed, making sure to pet Yuruchi on the head as he closed his eyes. Issei. Night Yuruchi. With that, Issei drifted away into the darkness of his slumber and waited for the new day to dawn upon him. Time skip. The sun began to rise over the distant horizon, illuminating all of Kuo and gifting it with its warm rays. It was the start of a new day, and everyone was getting out of their beds and starting their journey once again. The same could be said for Issei. The brown-haired boy was sleeping soundly in his bed, but soon he felt something poke his cheek which made him stir a little. He then felt another poke, making him stir once again. He soon felt a third one which began to annoy him because he was trying to sleep and he didn't want to be woken up at this point. He slowly began to open his eyes, his vision blurry, which wasn't too alarming since he had just woken up and was still very tired. After regaining his vision, he moved his gaze down to the direction the pokes came from, and when he did, his eyes shot open from what he saw. He thought the one poking him was Yamato, Yuruchi or hell even Artemis, but that wasn't the case. The one poking him was none other than Chisato, the school nurse who was on his bed. Chisato? Issei. She pouted a little as she began to crawl up to his face. Chisato? Wake up, Issei. Whoa, what the? Issei quickly sat up, accidentally bumping his head with Chisato, which caused a two to wince in pain, which also woke Yuruchi up from her slumber as well. The black feline looked and WSS confused. Why was a goddess like Chisato at Issei's place? She doesn't remember seeing her at the party last night, so she couldn't have seen Issei's battle against Thor. Although, she wouldn't be surprised if rumors about it spread throughout the supernatural world, because sooner or later everyone will know about Issei's existence. Whether this will be a good or a bad thing, she doesn't know, but she was sure that things will turn out alright. After all, Issei is the one who killed Kakabiel, a man who fought both God and the original Lucifer during the Great War all those years ago. Issei. Ouch, Chisato, what are you doing here? How the hell did you even get into my house? Chisato rubbed her forehead as she looked at Issei and smiled a little. Chisato. Two ways, one is that I use my goddess powers, and two, you left the front door open. Issei fell silent as he stared at Chisato, who just stared back at him. The brown-haired boy soon facepamed himself as he let out a sigh of annoyance, but not at the school nurse. No, he was annoyed with himself. How could he forget to lock the door? That was the easiest thing to remember, and yet, he somehow fucked that up. If his mother wasn't in a hypothetically life-threatening coma right now, she would shaking her head in disappointment and slap him at the back of the head for being so fucking stupid. Chisato giggled at Issei's reaction. She had to admit that it was pretty cute when he acted like that. Chisato. That's a cute reaction, Issei. Issei just sighed and shook his head. Issei. Why are you in my house anyway? Shouldn't you be at school? Chisato. Don't tell me you forgot what today is. Issei fell silent, first Wukong and now Chisato. Was today meant to be a special day or something? Because if it is, then Issei doesn't have a single clue on what it could be about. The couldn't be sports day, that's still a while away. It's not any field trip because his school rarely does any of those, and well, those are really the only two that he could think of that would require him remembering anything. Issei. I am gonna be honest with you, Chisato. I have absolutely no idea why today is special. Chisato let out a soft giggle as she smiled at the brown-haired boy. Chisato. Today's parent day, a day where all parents come to the school and watch what their children do. As soon as Chisato said THST, the moment she said the word parent, then the boy instantly knew that he was fucked. He began to freak out inside his mind. How could he forget about parent day? How could he forget about the one day that his mother had been looking forward to all year long? Every parent day, his mother does something special for Issei's class. Normally it's something simple like making cookies or cupcakes, but now she can't do any of that cause she is in a coma. To make things worse, Issei hasn't told anyone about his mother's situation just yet. Not the teachers, the principal, Sona, Riaz, or either of their peerage. He wanted to keep his mother's situation under wraps for as long as he could. But, looks like that was a fail. Issei. Shit, how could I forget about parent day? I am such a fucking idiot. Issei cupped his face with his hands and groaned in annoyance. Issei. So, you here to just tell me or you have another reason? Chisato. Another reason. Issei raised an eyebrow at her. What could she possibly come here for? Issei. And that is? Chisato smiled. Chisato. I'm gonna pretend to be your mother for today. Issei was surprised by this. Did he hear her right? She would be his mother for the day. Issei. Oh really? Wow, you don't have to that for me. Chisato. Well, you need someone to pretend to be your parent. Plus, you and I almost look alike when you think about it. This confused Issei. How could they look alike? She has black hair and green eyes while he had brown hair and brown eyes. Issei. What you talking about? Our hair and eyes are completely different. Chisato giggled and shook her head. Chisato. My hair is like a shade of dark brown to black, sure my eyes are green, but we can just say that you got your eyes from your dad. Issei blinked as a part of him knew that this would probably not work, there was no way that people were gonna believe that Chisato was his mother. Like, they won't even fall for the adopted trick because Issei isn't an orphan. The only real way that it will work is if the people at Kuo Academy are bloody idiots, which a few of them are, but the ones that are NT will be like Sona, Rias, their peerage and Issei thinks that it. But, it's not like Issei has anything to lose so he might and just get it over with. Issei. Alright, Chisato. You can be my mother. Chisato smiled and kisses Issei on the cheek, making the boy blush and made Yurichi deadpanned. Yurichi? Really, I am right here. Chisato looked at the black feline. Chisato. Hey, now. We can share. Issei. Share what am I to you both? The two females looked at Issei and giggled. Yeah, after gaining THR system, the brown-haired boy has become a little dense now because the two were talking about something else entirely. Both. She is so cutie and he is like that, no wonder he won over my heart. I'm Skip. Issei was currently walking toward Kuo Academy, wearing his school uniform as Chisato walked right beside him wearing some casual clothes which Issei had to admit she looked pretty cute. He silently chuckled to himself. Issei. Cute. Chisato blushed slightly at his comment with a smile. Chisato. Thank you, Issei, or should I say son. Issei chuckled slightly before he shook his head, that was definitely not gonna sound right to him, even if it's not true. Hey, what are you two doing together? Both Issei and Chisato perked at the familiar voice, they turned their heads and were greeted by none other than Scathach, who was wearing some regular clothes and had pouting expression on her face. Issei. Scathach. Chisato. Oh, hi, Scathach, I am just taking Issei to Parents' Day. Scathach gave Chisato a glare as Issei saw that the school nurse had a smug expression which confused him dearly. Issei. What's going on with you two? Chisato. Oh, nothing, don't worry about. Scathach. She stole my idea, I was gonna be your pretend parent. Issei blinked as he felt like something in his brain just popped. Did Scathach just say that she was gonna pretend to be his mother, which Chisato is already doing? Issei. Excuse me, what? Scathach. You heard me. Issei sighed. Issei. Fuck my life, honestly. Chisato. Now. Calm down, Scathach, no need to be angry. Scathach glared at Chisato. Scathach. You stole my idea. Chisato. Technically, I didn't steal it. I used it. Scathach. What's the difference? Issei deadpanned as both Chisato and Scathach argued with each other. He didn't need to get involved with the two, so he began to slowly back away from the duo as they kept arguing. Issei. Yeah, not getting involved. Just then, a screen appeared in front of Issei. Urgent notice. Player is a wimp for walking away like that. Issei paused as he felt his eye twitch a little. Did the system just call him a wimp? Did it just smack talk him? Issei. Funny coming from you, you barely do anything, you useless dick. Another screen appeared next to the first one. Urgent notice. Player, do not talk about your small parts like that. Issei gritted his teeth slightly as a vein popped out of his head. Oh, how TH system knew how to get under his skin. Issei. Fuck you. The third screen appeared. Urgent notice. Player is actually gay. Issei. Wow, I am being roasted by a screen, now I know what it's like to be on Twitter and read it. Issei sighed in defeat and just walked off to school. He didn't have time for this, plus he was sure that Scathach and Chisato will catch up with him. However, as soon as Issei saw the entrance to the school ahead of him, he soon sensed something and saw a figure leaning against the wall. It was a handsome young man with light silver hair and hazel eyes. He wore dark green V-neck shirt with a high-collared black leather jacket over it. He also wore burgundy jeans with a silver chain drooping down over them and black leather chaps with 3 bands encircling his right calf and black shoes with black buckles. Issei. What the? The young boy smirked and approached Issei. We meet again, human. Issei. Again. This is the second time we met here, Issei Haidu. Issei tilted his head, he doesn't remember ever meeting someone like him before. He can tell that he is a part of THR's supernatural world, a devil for that matter, but one that felt very different to Rias and Sona. Issei wasn't sure who this guy was, but he could tell that he would easily be on either an Air Anchor S rank boss level, which meant that Issei needed to level up faster or else things may get ugly. Issei. Sorry, don't know you. The boy chuckled. That's right, you don't know me. Issei's eyes widened, the White Dragon Emperor. If he recalls correctly, both the White Dragon Emperor and the Red Dragon Emperor were meant to be rivals or something. But that didn't explain one thing, why was he talking to Issei? He didn't have a sacred gear, Rias has already checked, and the system is something else entirely. So why? Why is he talking with him? Issei. Well, Vali. Why are you talking to me? I am no Red Dragon Emperor. Vali simply chuckled. Vali. Let us just say you caught my attention, Issei Haidu. No human could kill a fallen angel such as Kakabiel. Issei's eyes widen, he saw it. He was there when Kakabiel attacked the school and watched Issei kill the fallen. Issei. You were there. Bali. Yes, I was tasked with dealing with Kakabiel for the governor of the fallen angels, but looks like you beat me to it. Issei narrowed his eyes, he can't sense any hostility from Vali, but the way he was talking it sounded like he was excited. Issei. So you became interested in me because I defeated one fallen pigeon. Vali laughed a little. Vali. Fallen pigeon, that's a good one. But still, you killed a man who fought both God and Lucifer. Issei. Didn't he seem that impressive to me? He crossed his arms. Issei. And besides, if he did fight both God and Lucifer, how did he lost to a bunch of high school students, and one was human no less? Ali. You have a fair point, Haidu. He then pointed at Issei. Ali. What say I test you out real quick by casting a spell? Issei narrowed his eyes as he was about to summon his dagger, but then two swords appeared as Zenobia and Kiba were next to Vali. Kiba. Don't you think this has gone on long enough? Zenobia. It wouldn't be smart enough to allow us for you to pick a fight against Issei here, now would it? Issei. When did they? Vali chuckled and looked at the two devil's swords. Ali. You should really stand down, I see your blades are trembling. Issei. This guy must be very skilled to know that. Kiba, Zenobia. Put your weapons away. Everyone perked up as they turned to see Riss and the others had arrived, though surprisingly Scathach and Chisato were also with them. Issei wondered if they finally stopped arguing or did they sense Vali's energy and just so happened to run into Riss along the way. Both Kiba and Zenobia put their weapons as Rias crossed her arms. Rias. What are you doing here, White Dragon Emperor? Chisato. Yes, we would like to know as well. Scathach narrowed her eyes at Vali who remained where he stood, a small smirk on his face. Scathach. You better not be here to cause trouble. Vali merely chuckled. Vali. Is it wrong to recognize a worthy opponent? I didn't come here to fight, I came to accompany Azazel to Japan. He soon shrugged. Vali. I am just passing the time. Issei. What is this dude, Mihik or something? Vali. I'll be on my way. I have more important things to do. Vali walks past him as Issei watched him walk off. Dreg. My liege, we have our work cut out for us. Issei. Yeah, we do, Dreg. Rias walked up to Issei. Rias. You okay, Issei? Issei nodded his head. Issei. Yeah, I am fine. But I didn't think I would run into the White Dragon Emperor of all people. Chisato crossed her arms. Chisato. Scathach turned and looked at the deity. Scathach. Something on your mind? Chisato looked at Scathach and smiled. Chisato. Nah, I am alright. Scathach knew that Chisato was lying, but she knew that she won't say anything unless she wants to, so there's no reason to dwell on it for now at least. Scathach. If you say so. She then turned her attention to Issei and the others. Scathach. Alright everyone, I think it's time for us to head into school. Parent Day is about to begin and even if it's an event, it's still a school day so you all better be in your classes. Issei raised an eyebrow. Issei. What about you two? You both work here, continue your jobs and pretend to be my mothers at the same time. The two remained silent and facepalmed themselves for not thinking about that. This in return caused Issei to deadpan at the two. Issei. Wow, you both really didn't think of that did you? Both Scathach and Chisato blushed, embarrassed as they pouted at the brown-haired boy. Both. Shut up, Baka. Issei simply chuckled. Issei. Cute. Their faces turned red as Ria's hair. Speaking of which, Rias and the rest of her peerage minus Kiba glared at the two adults when Issei called them cute. Kiba saw this and backed away from them, not wanting to get involved with whatever is going on. Issei. Well, let's get going. Rias. Yes, let's go. Rias walked up to Issei, hugged his arm which put it in between her breast and start to drag him off. Bekeno. Hey, no fair. The sis. I wanna hug Issei's arm. Zenobia. Me too. Hineko walked casually. Hineko. Issei senpai. Both Chisato and Scathach got annoyed and chased after Rias and Issei. Both. Hey, where his pretend mothers gove him back. Kiba watched this happen as he let out a small sigh. He should have just stayed in bed, yeah, maybe he will do that next time instead of getting out. Time skip. Issei rubbed the bridge of his nose and let out a sigh. Today has been a complete rollercoaster and not the fun kind either. So much has happened in the short period of time THST he wasn't sure how to even explain it all, plus his head was starting to hurt so he didn't want to think about it anymore. As Issei was walking down the hallway, he didn't pay attention to where he was foeing and accidentally bumped into someone. Issei. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to. Issei stopped himself as he was greeted by a very interesting sight. It was a beautiful girl, looking in her late teens with black hair, tied into twin tails and blue eyes. She wore a very strange outfit, a pink magic girl one with a wand in her hand. Girl. Hello. She struck in an I'm pose making Issei sweat drop. Issei. Hi. Are you okay? The girl giggled. Girl. I'm perfectly fine, it takes a lot more than a little bump to put me down. Issei. Okay. Are you visiting someone or are you lost? The girl smiled. Girl. I'm here to see my cute little sis. Issei. Oh. You're an older sibling. The girl nodded her head. Serafal. Yep, the name's Serafal. Older sister of my sweet little Sona-chan. Issei's eyes widen, did he just heard that correctly or did this girl just say that she was Sona's older sister? Issei. What? Chapter 15. Fangs and Tusk. Third person Pav. Issei hoped he was hearing things. He hoped that he didn't just hear what Serafal just told him, he truly hoped that he misheard her or something. If she wasn't lying then Issei was actually standing in front of Sona's older sister, plus if Sona was a devil then it would be clear that Serafal was one as well. However, Issei could tell that Serafal was much more powerful than her younger sister because the sheer power Issei was feeling from her was something else entirely. She must be a high-ranking devil to possess such strength, though the exact level of that strength was still unknown to Issei at the moment. He made a mental note to not try anything to anger Serafal. If she is Sona's older sister, then there is a chance that she may be very protective of her. However, that didn't mean that Issei couldn't at least talk to her and mention the younger sibling. Issei. You're Sona's older sister, I didn't think she had one. Serafal. Oh, Sona-chan is always embarrassed of me. She says I act like a little kid, but I am not. Issei couldn't help but sweat drop a little as Serafal waved her hands in the air like an angry little kid, holding back the urge to either laugh or chuckle from how adorable it was. He now understood why Sona says that she acts like a little kid, just from that one instance alone. Issei. Well, it's nice to meet you. I am Issei, Issei Haidu. Serafal. Issei. Serafal tilted her head for a moment, she could have sworn that name sounded familiar to her. She has heard that name before, but only the first part of the name, and not the full one. If she recalls correctly, Sona mentioned something about a Issei boy that she ganged out with one time. Could this be him? Could this be the boy Sona hanged out with? She didn't know, she needed more information about him before she jumps to any conclusions. Serafal. Well, it's very nice to meet you as well as Issei. Issei perked up and turned in the direction of the voice, seeing Rias walking over with Scathach and Chisato. Issei. Oh, hey you three. Chisato. Issei, why did you run off? Scathach. You worried us. Issei couldn't help but internally sigh, they were really taking this fake mother thing way too far. In fact, it was a miracle that no one has put the pieces together yet that they aren't his mother. Like, seriously. It's not that hard to figure out, but then again, people can sometimes be idiots whether they are fictional or real. Issei. I didn't go far, so calm down will you both. I was just heading to lunch when I ran into this young lady. Issei gestured to Serafal as Rias, Chisato, and Scathach were surprised to see her. Rias soon grew a small smile and walked on up to the two. Rias. I gotta say, I didn't expect to see you here Miss Leviathan. Serafal smiled. Serafal. It has certainly been a while, Rias. How's your brother? Rias. He's doing alright. Issei blinked in surprise, Riot and Serafal knew each other. Well, since they're both devils then they had to have known about each other, but from their talking as if they are close friends. Serafal soon noticed Scathach and Chisato, smiling at the duo. Serafal. Chisato, Scathach. I've missed you both. The two couldn't help but smile. Scathach. It's good to see you again, Lady Leviathan. I see you're still doing the magic girl routine. Serafal giggled as she did a cute little pose, doing the leave sign with one eye closed as she stuck her tongue out. Serafal. You know it, girl. Rias. Well, I think it's safe to say we all know who you're here for. Issei remained silent as his ears soon picked up some footsteps approaching the group. He turned his head and WSS greeted by Sona, who was accompanied by Surziches and another man who had crimson red hair. Sona. I've finally found you, Rias. I was just giving a tour to your father and Sir Surziches. Rias looked at the two and smiled. Rias. Father, brother. Surziches smiled. Surziches, hello Rias. I see you've been staying out of trouble. Rias nodded her head as he turned his attention to both Chisato and Scathach. Surziches. Hello you two, it's been a while. Chisato crossed her arms. Chisato. It has indeed, Lord Surziches. Scathach. Not long enough, if you ask me. Surziches chuckled as he smiled at the two. Issei raised an eyebrow as he couldn't tell if there was some sort of bad connection between them. He didn't sense anything, but both Scathach and Chisato don't seem too happy with seeing Surziches. Sona soon looked at Issei and smiled at the brown-haired boy. Sona. Ah, Issei. I see that you're looking goo. Sona was cut off by Serafal jumping into her younger sister's arms, startling her in the process. Serafal. Sona-chan I found you. Sona. What the W why are you here? Surziches and his father chuckled at the scene before them as the others tried their best to not smile at Sona's embarrassment. Surziches. Well, this is a surprise. I didn't expect to see you here, Serafal. Issei looked at Rias. Issei. Hey, Riaz. Issei. Just who is Serafal? I know she is Sona's older sister, but everyone is making it seem like she is a very important person. Riaz only smiled at the brown-haired boy's words. Riaz. That is cause she is Serafal Leviathan. One of the 4 devil kings, and she is a very powerful one at that, being only outclassed by my brother in terms of strength. Issei. I may not know how strong Riaz's brother is, but it's safe to say that he doesn't hold a candle to Sun Wukong. That bastard wasn't even using 1% of his power against me, and it felt like I was gonna die during every single second. Serafal. Sirziches, you know I won't miss this. But I had to find out about open house all on my own. Sona-chan is a meanie and didn't tell me. I was so upset that I nearly attacked heaven in frustration. Nearly. Attacked? Heaven? Well, that was more than enough for Issei to know that Serafal was a force to be reckoned with if she nearly attacked heaven due to being upset. She seems so kind and lovable, but even those type of beings have hidden secrets to them like sides that no one knows about. Sona cleared her throat, gaining her older sister's attention. Sona. I am the student council president here, family or not, I won't tolerate such behavior. Serafal. Come on, Sona-chan. You know your One-chan loves magical girls. I'll use my sparkling wand to exterminate the angels and fallen angels. Sona. Have some prudence, you're a devil king. A bit of sparkling from you could destroy a small country in minutes. Issei sweat dropped. Yep, he was making a mental note to not piss of Serafal in any way, shape or form. If she can destroy a small country in minutes, then he so'sn't wanna know what she is like when she is pissed off or goes full power. Half the world could be destroyed. Just then, he realized something that piqued his interest. He could tell that Serafal cared about Sona deeply, then why the hell didn't she show up when Kakabiel attacked? Sure, Issei took care of the fallen angel, but still it would have been nice if they got a little bit of help. Why didn't Sona call her sister for help? They shouldn't be on bad terms, like Serafal is literally making Sona embarrassed, much to Issei's amusement. So why? Why didn't she call her during the Battle of Kuo? There had to be a reason for that, but what is that reason? Issei. Why didn't Sona call her sister during the Kakabiel incident? Riaz giggled. Riaz. She could've, the only problem is that if she did and Serafal found out if Kakabiel did anything to her, she would have instantly started a war with the fallen angels. Issei. Geez, is she really that protective? Riaz. Protective, I would call it obsessed with Sona. Issei looked at Serafal, who was trying to make Sona smile, much to the latter's annoyance and embarrassment. However, this didn't last for long as Sona soon reached her breaking point. Sona. I can't take it anymore. Sona began to run away as Serafal began to follow her. Serafal. Nu don't abandon One-chan Suntan. Sona. Please don't follow me. As the duo left the area, Sirziches chuckled as he rested his shoulder on Riaz's head, much to her annoyance. Sirziches. The Citri family is the most harmonious, don't you think, Ria-tan? Issei raised an eyebrow. Issei. Ria-tan. Is that a nickname that Riaz has? Riaz sighed. Riaz. Brother, please do not put tan to my nickname. This caused Sirziches to sigh in disappointment, though Issei had a feeling that he wasn't really disappointed. Sirziches. How sad, I remember how my little Ria-tan used to follow me around going One-sama, you're so rebellious now. Riaz. Don't tell everyone what I used to be when I was a kid. Sirziches chuckled as Issei couldn't help but smile. He could tell that Riaz had a wonderful relationship with her brother. So you're Issei Haidu? Issei turned and gazed upon the man who was pretty obviously Riaz's father, but the boy had to say that his appearance wasn't what he was expecting. Riaz's father had the appearance of a middle-aged, handsome-looking man with long crimson-red hair that is tied in a loose ponytail with a black hairband. He had bright blue eyes just like his 2 children and a short and red beard or stubble. Riaz's father. My daughter has told me quite a bit about you. He held his hand out as Issei took it, shaking his hand. The brown hair didn't feel any hostility from him, though his sheer aura was on a whole other level than Riaz, Sirziches, and Serafal. Issei. It is wonderful to meet you, Zeodicus. Zeodicus, my name is Zeodicus Gremory. But if that is too difficult, then you may call me Zero. Issei. Alright then, Zero. It is wonderful to meet you. Zeodicus smiled. Issei seemed like a very kind-hearted young man, and he could see why Riaz has feelings for him. If it wasn't for Issei, then Riaz would have been married off to Rizer Phoenix. Well, Zeodicus has nothing against THR Phoenix household, because they have been nothing but help throughout the many years. Rizer was in a desperate need for an awakening. Sooner or later he would have picked a fight with someone or something and lost dearly. Doing so in front of the entire supernatural world was an added bonus. In fact, Issei sort of reminds the Gremory a little bit of himself when he was younger. Back in those days, he was certainly something special. Zeodicus. He is definitely an interesting young man. Just then, a screen appeared in front of Issei which caught him off guard, but what he saw on the screen caused his eyes to widen in shock. Warning. Error, an error has occurred. Issei. Another error. This filled Issei with worry and confusion by what he was seeing. Why was an error happening now, and more importantly, what was the case of the error? Like, last time the error was due to the red gate appearing, but he hasn't gotten a notification that another was gonna happen, so this was due to something else. Was it the system? Was the system deliberately making the error? Why would it do that? What purpose would it serve? Issei knew that this was not a good thing. To make things worse, it was occurring at his school of all places. There were students, teachers, and parents around, so they will see the gate, and that was something that Issei didn't want. To make things even worse for the brown-haired boy, Rias and her family members were here, so Issei will be exposed. Zeraticus. You alright, Issei? You seem nervous. Issei. I am fine. Another screen appeared next to the first one. Warning. Gate is appearing, repeat, gate is appearing. Issei. Crap, this is definitely not goo. Issei heard footsteps as his eyes darted around, seeing Ria's peerage coming from the left-hand side, while Sona coming from the left, who was still being chased by her older sister. Issei. Oh no. At that moment, blue electricity appeared in between Issei and Zeraticus, which gained all the supernatural beings' attention as it formed a blue vortex, creating a shockwave which shook the entire school building and scarring everyone in other parts of the academy. Serziches. What the hell? Sona was shocked by the gate as Serafal held her younger sibling close to the Devil King. Serafal. Stay close, Sona-chan, your older sister will protect you. Rias. What is that? Issei stared at the vortex with a serious expression on his face, speaking the words which confused Rias and the others even more than they currently were. Issei. It's a gate. Just as the boy's words hung in the air, a powerful force gripped everyone present, yanking them into the swirling vortex. The sudden transition was disorienting for the group, especially since only Scathach and Issei had previously experienced traversing through a gate. Issei's face remained stoic, maintaining his composure amidst the chaos. As they emerged from the portal, Issei managed to land gracefully on his feet, his reflexes honed from countless battles. Immediately, he surveyed his surroundings, trying to make sense of their new location. The resounding thuds behind him indicated that the others had also arrived, albeit in a less graceful manner. The cavern they found themselves in bore a striking resemblance to the one where Issei had confronted the colossal giant arachnid. It puzzled him why his mind would instantly recall that particular dungeon, considering the previous gates had always led him to random caves. The familiarity of this environment triggered a sense of foreboding, as if they were about to face another formidable adversary. Issei's sharp eyes darted around, searching for any signs or clues that could shed light on their predicament. The dimly lit cave walls were adorned with intricate glyphs, ancient symbols etched into the stone. The air inside was thick with an otherworldly energy, giving rise to a sense of both trepidation and wonder. Steeling himself, Issei took a deep breath, preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. Issei. This is just great, I totally wanted this to happen. He shook his head as he turned his head and saw Rias and the others dusting themselves off, checking their surroundings as Scathach walked over to Issei. Scathach. Issei, is this another gate? This gained the others' attention as they looked at the brown-haired boy. Great, and now he has to explain himself. If he could, Issei would totally beat the ever-loving shit out of the system, or rather whoever created the damn thing. Issei. Yeah, though, even though it isn't a red gate. I don't see the exit, which means we re-trapped. Rias. Issei, what are you talking about? What even is this place? Issei scratched the back of his head. He didn't know what was gonna appear in this dungeon, but he should give the group the rundown. Issei. This is a gate, from what I can feel it's an A rank 1. Serziches. A rank. This means there are other ones too. Issei nodded his head. Issei. There are SE ranks, D ranks, C ranks, B ranks, A rank, and even S rank, which is the toughest one out there. Sona. And we're in the second toughest. Issei nodded his head, letting out a small sigh as he scratched the back of his head. Issei. Yeah, I wasn't planning on this happening. But looks like the system has other plans for me. Asia. System. What system? Issei. Well, the system is what saved me from death a while back. Hearing this caused Rias' eyes to widen. His death. He was talking about when he died to the fallen angel which wanted him dead because of his sacred gear. Was the system his sacred gear? No, it couldn't be that because she can sense one from him. The system was something else. What that was is unknown to her, and from the look of things not even Issei knows. Sona. Issei, is the system you speak of your sacred gear? Issei shook his head. It definitely wasn't a sacred gear. The system was something more, not in the power sense, more like it was something more mysterious and confusing. Like, even after all this time he still has absolutely no knowledge on what or who made the damn thing. Issei. I don't think so, it is something else. All that I know is that I use it and it uses me, it's made me a player and has been trying to make me stronger. He then turned his attention to the cave that they were standing in. He could clearly sense that the magical energy flowing from it was significantly weaker than previous gates, such as the Demon Castle dungeon. Yet, he was getting the same ominous feeling like when he stood by the red gate. But why? Why was he feeling like this? Was it because this was basically the same situation as the red gate? No, this was something else. There was something else about this gate which was setting off red flags within the brown-haired boy's mind. Was he just nervous? Was it because the last time he had someone within the gate they ended up dying and it was all his fault? Even now, he still hasn't gotten over the fact he could have done something. He could have helped them, protected them instead of letting them die alone. Yet, no matter how many times he tries to get over it, death isn't something one can ignore. Hell, Issei hasn't even gotten over his own by the hands of Rainer. He still feels the phantom pains all throughout his body, specifically where he was pierced by the light spear. Zeraticus. So Issei, what do we have to do? Issei snapped out of his thoughts. Unknowingly he had placed a hand on the spot he was pierced. Hearing those words, it was enough for Issei to take this very serious because he won't make the same mistake twice. He already failed once shall be the only time he fails. Issei cleared his throat, turning to the others while crossing his arms. Issei. Alright, listen up cause I am only gonna say this once. Sona was surprised by how serious Issei sounded, she had never seen him act like this before. These dungeons must be dangerous if he is talking like that, Kynes reminded the Citri girl a little of herself. Issei. To leave the gate, we need to defeat the boss. Once we do that, then we will be able to return back to our world. Many nodded in understanding, this was basically like a video game level, except if you die then you die for real. Like that one in Sword Art Online they believe it was called. Those like Zeraticus, Serziches and Sona were always so busy, so they never got the chance to watch it. However, the rest knew that this situation was basically like that. Ignoring their predicament, Sona couldn't help but imagine what Issei would be like if he was either a part of the student council or a student more dedicated to his studies. The blush began to grow on Sona's face as steam began to pour from her ears. That would be exactly what it would be like. Except, Issei would be trying to charm her whenever he got the chance. Scathach. So, what's in this one? Something better than ourselves, Issei. That's the thing, I have no idea what could be lurking in the shadows. Your guess is as good as mine. Chisato, who was listening looked over at the darkness ahead of them and narrowed her eyes. Chisato. Well, I don't think we gotta wait for long. We got company. As soon as Chisato said that, everyone perked up as they saw Issei immediately get into a battle stance with his two daggers out. Scathach, who had more combat experience than him was shocked by how quick he was to get into stance. He didn't even hesitated, just like back in the Red Gate. Issei. Everyone, get ready. Those like Kiba, Zenobia and Scathach brought out their weapons as the others prepared their magic or in Asia's case her fist. As they did, several creatures leaped from the darkness and charged toward the group with immense speed. However, Issei's eyes soon widened when he saw what they were. Issei. Wait, those are. Issei. Dungeon jackals. He quickly shook the shock off as he charged forward, using his daggers to slice through several of the jackals which caused blood to splatter across the ground. He then leaped into the air, causing one of the jackals to look up at the brown-haired boy, who threw his weapon at the creature's face. The supernatural beings were stunned by Issei's performance, he was killing the monsters quickly and without a second thought. Those who attended Kuo and knew what Issei used to be couldn't even see a drop of the old perverted boy in him anymore. They were handling themselves against the so-called dungeon jackals. For the devils they had to say that these monsters were equal to a lower medium-ranked devil, which wasn't really impressive. Scathach twirled her staff and was about to strike another jackal, but she was interrupted by Issei tackling it and stabbing it. Scathach. Hey. Issei looked at Scathach, winking at her before disappearing, which shocked her. She immediately looked at the others and saw numerous versions of Issei, all killing the dungeon jackals in an instant before vanishing before their eyes. They turned to the only one left who was walking over to them, chuckling as he looked at the ring on his finger. Issei. Man, it's fun to use this thing again. Been a while actually. Sona. Issei, what was that? Issei. Eyes were my illusions, something this little ring grants me. Everyone looked at the ring, feeling a powerful godly power coming from it. Chisato and Scathach knew what it was, that was the ring of Loki, which was a rare treasure. The Norse god made it himself surprisingly, not sure why he would since he was literally a god, but since it was Loki. Probably for shits and giggles. Zeraticus. Were these the monsters you spoke of, Issei? Hineko kneeled down and poked at the dead jackal before her, giving absolutely no shit whatsoever. Hineko. Kinda weak. Issei shook his head as he looked at the dungeon jackals with a serious expression on his face. Issei. No, these aren't the ones. They aren't even meant to be here. This caused many to raise their eyebrows in confusion, not sure what he meant. Serziches? What do you mean? Seraphol? Yeah, how are these not the monsters? Issei sighed. Issei. This is a A-rank dungeon. These dungeon jackals are from a C-rank monsters. Since they're too weak they have been hunted down ages ago. Sona looked at the deceased monster, examining its body from back to front, and when she got to the neck, her eyes widened from what she saw. Sona. A trace of a leash. She looked at Issei. Sona. Issei, the neck. Issei. Huh. He looked at one of the jackal's necks and saw the same thing Sona did. He looked at the rest, and they all had the same marks, a trace of a leash. This filled Issei with worry. These jackals weren't the main monsters. They were hunting dogs, ones trained and raised by something else. Issei. Someone's using these as hunting dog. This shocked the group. Scathach thought it was weird that they were the only thing that showed up, and Issei said they were only C-rank monsters. But THST means that whatever trained them was on the same level of intelligence like a human, reminding Scathach of those ice elves she fought back in the Red Gate. Rias. What do we do, Issei? Has this even happened before? Issei. No, it hasn't. The ice elves that Scathach and I fought a while back didn't work with any of the other monsters. Whatever is in this dungeon is more cunning. Suddenly, everyone heard a low growl coming from the darkness, followed by numerous footsteps. They turned their heads as they were greeted by what Issei could clearly guess: let the dungeon jackals loose. Seraphol. What are those things? Issei. High orcs. Issei's gaze moved to the side as a screen appeared before him, showing his stats. Name. Issei Haidu. Job. Shadow Monarch. Title. Conqueror of Adversity +1. Level. 84. Health points HP. 34,000. Magic MP. 353650. Fatigue. 7. Strength STR. 122, +45. Vitality Vit. 94, +25. Agility Agile. 94, +45. Intelligence Int. 99, +50. Sense. 94, +25. Available points. 0. Physical damage reduction. 71%, +20. Issei. At my current level, I can easily defeat these things. Issei may have used a bit of his MP, but he still had plenty to summon his shadows if he had to resort to that. But he wasn't sure how the others will fare against these monsters. These were 10 if not hundreds of times stronger than what they fought before. These were high orcs, the strongest among the orc species, which is why their skin was red instead of green, and each marking on their body represents a kill that they have collected over the years. From what Issei could see, there were around 20 high orcs, and depending on how strong they were, this could take around 5 minutes at most to kill them. Well, at least there was an upside to all of this, and that was that Issei didn't have to deal with open house anymore. Scathach. So Issei, what's the plan with these ones? A small smirk grew on Issei's face as he prepared his weapons, his eyes glowing purple. Issei. Simple, hunt them. One of the high orcs let out a battle cry as it picked up its weapon, which was a spear or halberd, and threw it at Issei. As he saw it approached him, it was soon deflected thanks to Seraphol who put up a magic shield. Issei quickly looked back at the magic girl who smiled at Issei. Seraphol. Not to worry, Issei Haidu. Magic girl Seraphol and her lovely sister, Sona-chan, will take care of this. Sona groaned in frustration while Issei chuckled as they turned their attention back to the approaching monsters, who were charging towards them with their weapons drawn. One of the monsters managed to leap over Seraphol's magic shield and was about to strike Issei with its axe. However, Kaneko swiftly intervened, tackling the creature to the ground. Kaneko's eyes narrowed in anger at the monster's audacity to harm her beloved Issei-senpai. She refused to allow such an action against him and began relentlessly punching the creature in the face. The force of her blows caused the orc's teeth to shatter and it cried out in pain, coughing up blood. Kaneko had not held a high opinion of Issei Haidu in the past, considering him nothing more than a pervert obsessed with women's breasts. But now, he had shown little redeeming qualities until his transformation, which left her confused and slightly intimidated by his sudden surge in strength, speed, and newfound skills. However, as time passed, Kaneko started to see Issei as a loyal comrade and friend, someone she could rely on and trust in times of need. Perhaps, just maybe, they could be more than just friends. But one thing was certain. She would never allow anyone to harm him as long as she was around, and she knew that the other girls felt the same way. Meanwhile, Kiba and Zenobia engaged in combat with two high orcs wielding swords. Despite their advantage in speed as knights, they could feel the sheer strength of the high orcs emanating through their blades, making the clash intense and challenging. Kiba. Such raw strength. Zenobia. So, this is what Issei faces on a daily basis. As for the rest of the group, Chisato made the strategic decision to adopt a defensive stance, while her companions unleashed a barrage of powerful magical attacks on the high orcs. The destructive power possessed by the Gremory family proved to be invaluable in this battle. However, they had to exercise caution to avoid inadvertently harming their allies amidst the chaos. Among the high orcs, there was one particularly imposing figure who stood out due to its sheer size. This behemoth of an orc retrieved a massive chained mace from its side and started twirling it with great force. With each rotation, the mace collided with the ground and walls, producing resonating thuds that reverberated throughout the area. High orc. Ruair translation. Someone give me a real fight. As it swung its weapon, it was quickly grabbed and pulled, which made the orc turn and saw Issei holding it tightly with his hands. A smirk grew on the boy's face as his eyes were glowing with purple energy, sending a shiver down the monster's spine. Issei. You want to fight, you got one. Scathach charged forward with determined momentum, wielding her weapon skillfully as she swiftly sliced the towering orc's arm. The strike elicited a pained grunt from the creature. Meanwhile, Issei exerted all his strength, forcefully yanking the high orc's arm off, prompting it to let out a deafening roar of agony. Capitalizing on the opportunity, Scathach swiftly maneuvered and swiftly severed the monster's right leg, causing it to lose balance and topple backward. With the high orc sprawled on its back, the purple-haired teacher poised her weapon for a decisive blow to end the creature's life. However, her intentions were interrupted by Issei, who gripped the spiked ball tightly in his arms. He proceeded to mercilessly pummel the high orc's face with the spiked ball, delivering a series of devastating blows. As the monster lost its life, Scathach turned her attention to Issei and gave him an annoyed pout. Scathach. He was mine. Issei merely chuckled in amusement and shrugged his shoulders at her. It wasn't his fault that she took too long to kill it, like this wasn't an anime or something, so there was no need to wait for your opponent to do anything. Issei. Should have killed him faster. Scathach glared at Issei, who only laughed. He tossed the now blood-covered spiked ball to the side and summoned one of his daggers. Issei. Come on, there is still work to do. Scathach let out a small sigh as she and Issei noticed two high orcs charging at them. The duo eyed each other and nodded their heads as they ran at them. Meanwhile at the hospital. Miki Haidu lay on the hospital bed, unmoving and unchanged, as she had been for quite some time now. The room enveloped in silence and appeared desolate, with only the brown-haired woman occupying it, or so it seemed. Standing beside the bed was a mysterious man who had been clandestinely observing from the sidelines. He was none other than Miki's husband and the father of Issei Haidu. His gentle gaze fixated upon his wife's face, which exuded a serene and timeless beauty reminiscent of the day they first met. With utmost tenderness, he slowly extended his hand towards her face, delicately caressing her smooth and velvety skin, while closing his eyes. In that moment, a vivid image of a younger Miki, her hair gracefully dancing in the wind and a radiant smile adorning her face, manifested within his mind. It was the day they crossed paths a decade ago, when he had recently arrived in the town of Kuo, compelled by certain circumstances. Miki became his first friend upon joining the school, and from the instant they connected, he sensed an indescribable bond. That experience etched itself into the recesses of his mind, an unforgettable memory that would endure through time. A soft sigh escaped his lips, accompanied by a solitary teardrop that descended, ultimately finding its resting place on Miki's countenance. Unaffected by this display of emotion, the man gently wiped away the tear, preserving the tranquility that adorned her beautiful face. Man. I am sorry for everything I have done and shall do. Wow, you do have emotions. The man didn't bother turning around, he knew exactly who was behind him, and he let out a small sigh. Man. Why are you here, Wukong? Sun Wukong, who was in his human form, leaned up against the wall and crossed his arms. The tension in the air grew thin as the Wukong stared at the man with a serious expression on his face. Sun Wukong. I could ask you the same thing, man. You're the omniscient one, you should know the answer to that. Wukong sighed, he may be omniscient, but the thing is the Monkey King doesn't really use it, which shouldn't be possible. It isn't an ability he can just turn off, but then again he was Sun Wukong and he didn't give a absolute flying fuck. Sun Wukong. Just tell me already, man. Is it wrong for a husband to see his wife? Especially when she is in this state. Sun Wukong. Then why don't you heal her? You have the power to do it. The man fell silent from the great sage's words. He could do it actually, and that wasn't a lie. He could use his power to heal his wife, to bring her out of this coma. However, there is a huge difference between considering doing something and actually doing it. He want to do it. He want to heal his wife. Many will see it as stupid or selfish, but there is a reason why he want to do it. Man. No. Sun Wukong. Why not? Hearing that question caused the man to let out a chuckle as he looked at the Monkey King, a small smile on his face. Man. Similar to why you haven't done it yet. Wukong fell silent, like the man in front of him, he also has the power to bring Miki out of her coma. In fact, he could have fixed her before she even showed symptoms of whatever has happened to her with a simple blink of his eyes. But he hasn't done that because it wasn't his place to do such a thing, it would be unfair for Issei. After meeting the brown-haired boy and challenging him, he saw potential within him. A spark that wanted to burst free and shine brightly with a might strength that could rival even the strongest beings in the universe. After seeing what his mother and him have been through, it deeply wounded his heart, but Issei never gave up hope. He was determined to do things to help her, like today he is determined to collect the purified blood of the Demon King and make that holy water of life. He could have called for Wukong, he would have helped immediately, but he didn't do it. Issei wants to do it by himself. If Sun Wukong fixed his mother after Issei went through so much to do the same thing, then it would disappoint him. However, Sun Wukong, I take it that you have another reason. The man nodded his head. Man. When she wakes up, I want the face of her saver be Issei, not me. I do not deserve to save her, that honor goes to my son. Back with Issei. You leveled up, Issei. Oh, I've gone up by a level. Issei stood with his arms crossed, his gaze fixed on the screen displaying the aftermath of the intense battle. Surrounding him were the lifeless bodies of the 20 high orcs that had mercilessly attacked him and his companions. Each orc had met their demise in a unique manner, their final moments marked by savage dismemberment, brutal facial deformities, impalement by a towering ice spike, drowning within a sphere of water, or utter annihilation through the power of destruction, among other grisly fates. Taking a well-deserved respite, the supernatural beings that fought alongside Issei rested a few feet away. The exertion of their formidable abilities had left them visibly fatigued and likely famished. Issei couldn't blame them, he too felt the weight of exhaustion pressing upon him. Fortunately, he possessed a means to replenish his energy through the use of potions procured from the nearby shop. Bekeno. Those high orcs were certainly tough. Rias. Agreed, not many beings can resist my family's power of destruction ability. She turned her attention to her older brother. Rias. How strong you think those things were? Surziches. Definitely as strong or stronger than a high-ranking devil. Issei listened into the group's conversation, but only for a little bit, as soon toned them out and began to go through his own thoughts. This was certainly not the end of this dungeon, those high orcs they eliminated were probably a hunting party. If there is an entire tribe of them, then things are gonna be ugly like that Warcraft movie. Speaking of that movie, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't really good either. But he will admit this, the chief of the Frost Wolf clan was definitely the goat in that whole movie. As Issei continued to mind his own thoughts, he soon noticed several screens appeared in front of him which didn't surprise him, but that soon changed when he saw what was on them. Urgent message. Warning, 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 warning. Issei. Huh. What no? Suddenly, Issei and the others felt a wave of immense pressure wash over their bodies, which caused their eyes to widen. Sweat began to run down their foreheads as Issei looked and saw that even those like Surziches, Seraphol, Scathich, Chisado and Zeroticus were affected by whatever it was. Rias. What the hell was that? Bekeno. I don't know, Rias. Sona looked over at Issei, fear and concern clear as day in her eyes. Sona. Issei, what's going on? Issei. I don't know, but I think it has something to do with the boss. Suddenly, the group heard footsteps as they turned, and their eyes widened in shock as a couple of feet from there were a group of high orcs. However, there was a difference between this group and the one that they had just slaughtered a few minutes ago. For starters, there was a total of 50 of them, and each looked more dangerous than the last. They also appeared to be accompanied by some sort of red aura, which made their eyes shine the color, maybe enhancement from the boss of the dungeon. One of the high orcs, a little bit taller than Surziches and had messy black hair, stepped forward and growled at the group, which made Issei's eyes narrow. The boy was ready to summon his shadow soldiers if the mobster tried to do anything hostile toward them, which it sort of did by roaring at them or rather trying to talk. But the thing is, Issei couldn't understand it, which surprised him because he was able to understand the ice elves back in the Red Gate. Maybe the high orcs were so different to regular ones that they developed a language that no one knows about. But then, the orc's eyes rolled back as its neck began to move very weirdly as Issei and the others could hear the gruesome sound of bones cracking. High orc. Human. Issei blinked in surprise, did it just talk? High orc. Humans, I am Kargalin, I wish to meet with you humans. Kargalin. Was THST the name of the boss? It had to be because that sounded way too important, plus he said he wanted to meet with them, and if it was actually the one in front of them who was Kargalin, then that sentence wouldn't make any sense. Seraphol. Did that orc just speak? Asia. It must be magic. Sona narrowed her eyes. Sona. It is, that orc is merely a puppet. The boss is speaking through it. Issei. Kargalin. The possessed orc turned its head toward Issei who was giving it a serious expression. Issei. If you're capable of this, I guess you know magic. High orc. Yes, I am the prideful orc great sorcerer, my magic is unrivaled. Well, that was all that Issei needed to hear, and now it was clear who the boss of the dungeon was. At first, Issei was a little skeptical because a sorcerer normally isn't a leader and that is reserved for a larder king. Looks like he was wrong. Issei. I guess you're not gonna give us much of a choice, are you? High orc. Yes, either die by my men or follow my men. Issei let out a small sigh. Issei. Fine, we'll follow your men. Gasps filled the area as Issei's friend and allies were shocked by the boy's decision. Scathach understood why he decided to no go against Kargalin's offer. Two reasons actually, the first was that even if they do manage to kill the 50 orcs in front of them, they have absolutely no idea if there are many more. The second reason and the one that Issei most likely choose. He wanted to see what the boss looked like before he killed it. High orc. Follow us humans. With that, the high orcs turned and began to walk off as Issei and his group followed closely behind them. Riaz. Issei, are you insane? Issei. No, I haven't gone insane yet. Riaz. Not what I meant, why did you agree to the boss's terms? Issei looked back at Riaz as a confident smirk grew on his face, a smirk which made the crimson-red girl blush a little. Issei. You'll find out soon, Ria Tan. Riaz blushed more as Issei chuckled and kept following the high orcs for around a solid 5 minutes, but before long they arrived at their destination, the boss room, and it was sort of what Issei expected. The boss room appeared to resemble a medieval throne room, similar to the one that Igris resided within, but the difference between the two was that this one was 10 times bigger, and if Issei's math was correct, there was easily over 1,000 or more high orcs. Their roars of rage and calls of bloodlust filled the air, echoing throughout the air as Issei kept walking toward a staircase. At the top were 5 high orcs, 4 of them appeared to be warriors who were bigger and looked more powerful than the other ones. Sitting on the throne was none other than Kargalin, the orc shaman, and the boss monster of the A-rank dungeon. He had bright red skin, glowing red eyes, and gray hair. Unlike the rest of his kind, however, he had an array of neon teal tattoos covering his face, hands, and wrists, and wore a tattered brown-headed cloak, a grayish-white face mask that only exposed his eyes and lower jaw, a necklace made of human skulls, and red armored shoulder guards. Issei. Yep, that just screams boss monster. Kargalin. Humans welcome. Scathach and Issei analyzed the situation they all were in, the boss looked powerful, and possibly has more abilities than merely controlling ones of its minions. Plus, the 4 guards didn't look like pushover either. There was no doubt about it, if these monsters got out of the gate then all of Kua would be reduced to nothing but rubble. Kargalin. Do you fear me? Issei watched as Kargalin's tattoos began glowing as his eyes shined red. Kargalin. Humans. When he said this, another wave of pressure washed over the whole group as everyone felt like that they had just had numerous holes blown through their bodies. Sweat ran down their faces as even Chisato, who was a goddess, started to feel a little afraid, though Issei didn't feel a hit they did and was confused. Not because he didn't feel what the others did, but why is he calling them humans? Does he not know that they are supernatural beings kinds like him and the high orcs? Scathach. Why did you bring us here? Your warriors would have been enough, so why? Kargalin smirked. Kargalin. For entertainment. Scathach. Huh. Kargalin. During our remaining time here, we'll kill you one by one for my men's entertainment. The HR high orcs rose their weapons into the air as they let out their battle cries, they hunkered for death, they wanted to see their Orit bleed. Kargalin. However, there seems to be an odd one among you humans. Issei narrowed his eyes as Scathach summoned her weapon. Issei tried to stop her, but she charged toward the boss monster with immense speed as she leaped into the air. Her eyes were filled with anger as she went to bring down her weapon upon Kargalin. She was gonna end this nonsense and set everyone free. Scathach. Die. However, Kargalin smirked at this foolish attempt on his life. Kargalin. Hymn of protection. Scathach's eyes soon widened as she saw a blue shield appeared in front of the monster. The shield blocked her attack and caused her to back off. Kargalin. Foolish human. He held one of his hands out as it glowed with a red aura, the same aura soon covering Scathach as she was flung into the air. Kargalin. Gravitation magic. Scathach gritted her teeth as she glared at Kargalin, who smirked. He brought his hand down as Scathach was slammed into the stone floor. She called out in pain as Kargalin brought her up into the air once again, only to slam her back down upon the ground. The purple-haired woman's screams of agony filled the room, much to the excitement of the high orcs who began cheering for their leader in their native tongue. They were enjoying the show, much to the horror and anger of the supernatural beings, especially Issei. Kargalin was gonna do it again for a 3rd time, but before he could, Issei grabbed Scathach, much to the surprise of the orc sorcerer, and gently set the woman down on the ground. Issei. Scathach. Scathach was covered head to toe in cuts, bruises, and marks. Blood dripped down from her forehead as tears filled her eyes. Issei's hair covered his eyes as Kargalin watched with interest. The leader gestured to one of his 4 guards who smirked and leaped down from the top. Scathach noticed it and her eyes widened. Issei. Don't worry. Issei held his hand out as he used Dominator's touch, grabbing the high orc and holding it in place, which surprised it. This didn't last long as with one swift motion, Issei launched the monster into the air as it crashed into the roof and splattered it with its blood. Issei. I'll kill them all. Scathach couldn't help but smile at the brown-haired boy's words as Issei stood up, slowly turning to Kargalin as his eyes glowed purple. Kargalin. You have quite a talent for a mere human, but how long will you last against all of us? Issei. I've never felt such a powerful energy before. This isn't a good matchup. Kargalin grew an amused grin, yet one full of malicious intent. Riaz and the others looked at Issei as they saw that something was spreading across the ground. It looked like his shadow was growing. Kargalin. Isn't he that obvious? Issei smirked. Issei. For you I mean, come forth my shadows. Numerous hands and claws emerged from the shadow of the brown-haired boy, captivating Kargalin, Riaz, her peerage and Sona as they witnessed the astonishing sight of Issei summoning minions from his own shadow for combat. With a confident smirk, Iron forcefully plunged his axe into the ground, causing the stone floor to crack. Igris approached and stood beside Issei, while Greed and Tank joined their fellow brothers. Tank growled menacingly at the high orcs, intensifying the thrill of the moment. However, the excitement didn't end there, as Issei's shadow continued to expand, mesmerizing everyone with a mix of shock and awe. To their astonishment, a colossal claw emerged from the depths, gripping a nearby pillar. Drake materialized from the shadows, releasing a thunderous roar that shook the entire boss room, simulating the tremors of an earthquake. The mere presence of the shadow dragon instilled both fear and admiration in all those present, especially those who recognized Drake from the past. It was a stark reminder of who he had been all those years ago. Serzich's father, is that Zerodicus? Yes my son, it's him, it's Drake Y Gotch, the Welsh dragon of domination. Drake lowered his head, bowing to Issei. Drake. My liege, what are your orders? Issei. Wait for my orders. Kargalin was still shocked, but he tried his best to play it cool. Kargalin. Trying to pick a fight with my warriors when you have so little soldiers, even with that beast. Issei smirked. Issei. If you look down upon us too much, it will be disastrous. Skill. Domain of the Monarch activated. At that moment, a massive black circle appeared on the ground as Issei's shadow soldiers began to change color from blue to a dark purple. This brought a pleased smile to Issei's face. This was his first time using the skill, and he's gotta say he was loving it already. Shadow soldiers fighting above the Carter's shadow will have their stats increased by 50%. Issei. 50% increase doesn't sound impressive, but on powerhouse like Drake. Issei grew a smirk. Issei. This is gonna be one hell of an overkill. Riaz and her peerage stared at Issei with shocked expressions. They knew the boy the longest, and they had no idea that he was capable of such a thing. The sheer aura coming off him was something else entirely. It was like he was a complete other being. It reminded them of the time he killed Kakabiel, well to be specific whoever took over his body at the time. Either way, they didn't know that he had an army of shadow monsters stashed away in his shadow. Riaz questioned why he didn't use them against Riser and Kakabiel. Was he afraid of revealing his secrets to them? If that was the case, then the crimson red-haired girl fully understood. But still, the fact that he had such a powerful ability hidden away. She was actually glad that they were allies and friends. If they weren't, then she doubts that they could defeat him, even with the three factions working together under a single goal. Riaz. Wow, to think he has this power. Akeno. It's breathtaking. Riaz nodded her head as Shisato and Asia were healing Scathach with magic. The purple-haired woman had a small smile on her face. A part of her was glad that she got fucked up. Now she gets to see Issei and his soldiers tear Kargalin and his high orcs a new one. Speaking of which, Kargalin growled as he grabbed the armrest of his throne very tightly. Kargalin. What are you all doing? Destroy him already. The high orcs roared ferociously as they charged towards Issei and his loyal shadows. With a simple snap of his fingers, Issei signaled his shadows into action, and they immediately sprang into motion, following their liege-esque command. Greed clenched his fists together as his eye emitted a glowing aura. A high orc swung its sword at him, but Greed effortlessly caught it with one hand. The monstrous creature struggled to break free, but Greed remained unmoved, not even flinching. Gradually, he increased the pressure on the blade, causing visible cracks to form along its surface. The high orc's sword shattered like fragile glass, leaving the creature in a state of shock. Issei's shadows reacted swiftly, seizing the high orc by its face and crushing it with a vice-like grip. Blood splattered across the shadow's hand as it swiftly disposed of the lifeless body, hurling it towards a group of approaching high orcs. While most of them were caught off guard, one managed to evade the flying corpse. Seizing the opportunity, it lunged at Greed, attempting to strike him with a punch. However, the shadow effortlessly evaded the attack and retaliated with a devastating punch of its own, creating a gaping hole in the monster's chest. Undeterred by their fallen comrade, another high orc recklessly charged at Greed. With lightning-quick reflexes, Greed seized the charging creature and hurled it towards his brother, Iron. Iron swiftly swung his battle axe, cleaving the high orc's head with a powerful blow. As he withdrew his weapon, he turned his gaze towards a couple of high orcs, a mischievous smirk forming on his face. Iron has used skill taunt. Iron let out a roar-like scream as he expected his skill to work on the foolish orcs, but that didn't seem to be the case. The enemy's stat was too high. The taunt has failed. This agitated Iron, his eye twitching in annoyance. He tightly gripped his battle axe with both hands, and in a swift and fluid motion, he unleashed a devastating onslaught upon the monsters. With each swing, he cleaved through their bodies, slicing them in half and leaving their lifeless forms scattered across the ground. Amidst the chaos, another high orc leaped into the air, brandishing its weapon as it aimed to strike Iron from above. However, Greed swiftly intervened, tackling the high orc to the ground. With a powerful punch, he delivered a blow directly to the creature's face, exerting enough force to flatten it like a pancake. Iron blinked, momentarily surprised by his brother's timely assistance. Greed returned his gaze to his brother who offered a thumbs up and a smile, causing Greed to sweat drop, a mix of amusement and exasperation evident on his face. Meanwhile, Igris found himself engaged in a fierce battle against several high orcs. The former Blood Red commander stood tall, his eyes closed in a display of serene focus. As the orcs attacked, attempting to strike him with their weapons, Igris effortlessly evaded their every move. Each of his fluid dodges showcased his honed skills and unwavering determination to make his liege proud. Since joining his liege's army of undead and unlocking his hockey, Igris had tirelessly trained in secret, constantly striving to improve himself and become stronger. Flashback. Weak. He was weak. So weak. It was currently nighttime in Kuo as Igris was in the backyard of the Haidu residence, swinging his sword around as he was training to become stronger. He had strength when he was alive, he gave his liege a difficult time, but now that no longer matters. He needed to become stronger, so many times he could have done something to help his master, but he didn't. He could have came out of his liege's shadow whenever he desired, yet he didn't do it. He could have revealed himself during the battle with Kakabiel or against Sun Wukong. He didn't care if one was an all-powerful god, he would have done it. Yet, he didn't because he was weak. He continued to swing his sword around as Igris needed to become stronger, much stronger. He can be weak. Swing. He won be weak. Swing. He already lost one master. Swing. He won lose another one. Swing. Weak. Swing. Weak. Swing. Weak. Swing. Weak. Swing. Weak. So weak. In rage, Igris swung his sword and slashed a nearby tree in half, which made it fall onto the grassy ground. If shadows were capable of being exhausted then Igris would be sweating and panting very heavily right now, but this break of his wouldn't last for long. Training hard, Igris. Igris perked up at the sudden voice and turned to see the head of his general, Drake. The former Blood Red commander immediately got on his knees and bowed to the Shadow Dragon, showing respect to the one who was ranked above him. Drake was truly something special, Igris is proud to work under a powerful general such as him. Plus, he is the only soldier in his liege's army who has the ability to speak directly to the liege. Igris also owes Drake for protecting the liege from the Monkey King's attack, if he didn't then it would have been the end for them all. Drake. Rise, Igris. Igris rose to his feet as Drake looked over at the chopped tree. Drake. You're trying to prove yourself, are you? Igris nodded his head. Drake. I see, you must think that you're worthless. You were usable to assist our liege's battles against Wukong and Kakabiel. Once again, Igris nodded to his general's words because it was all true. There was no point in lying about something that's the truth. Drake. Heh, Igris. Let me give you a piece of advice. This gained the former Blood Red commander's attention as he titled his head with interest and confusion, much to Drake's amusement. The Shadow Dragon grew a small smile as his gaze moved up to the second floor of Thr Haidu household, specifically Issei's bedroom. Drake. Issei doesn't think that you're weak, you're the one that gave him the most difficult. He looked back at the Shadow Knight who remained where he stood. Drake. If you want to make our liege proud, then remember this, don't train and overwork yourself like this. Prove your strength to him by killing his enemies and become what you are destined to be. Igris stared at Drake in absolute silence, his eyes widen in shock. If he still had a heart, it would be beating very quickly right about now. Drake was correct, Igris should have done what he has always should have been doing. The thing that he did before he met Issei Haidu, protect the throne and the one who sits atop that throne. When he was alive, he was known as the Blood Red Commander, but now he is no longer that version of himself. He was much more. He was. Flashback end. Igris gradually opened his eyes, his gaze filled with unwavering seriousness. He tightly gripped his greatsword, its blade enveloped in a swirling aura of vibrant purple sparks. The high orcs felt an overwhelming pressure emanating from the night, a foreboding presence that sent shivers down their spines. Yet, before they could even react, Igris unleashed a torrent of destruction upon them, cutting through their ranks as if they were mere scraps of paper. The ground became drenched in blood, scattered limbs serving as gruesome reminders of Igris's devastating prowess. The air resonated with the cries of agony and pain, the pitiful sounds of the monstrous creatures desperately seeking a sliver of mercy from Igris. But mercy was not within his grasp. He was acutely aware of his own nature, of the path his destiny had led him down. He had embraced his true purpose and would not waver in fulfilling it. No longer would he be known as Igris, the blood-red commander or the knight who protected the empty throne. He was now Igris, the Death Knight. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.